Welcome to Coffee Date with Spirit. Grab your favorite mug and get cozy while your hosts, Kristen Forno and Amy Potter, two maybe not so ordinary mystics, chat about the extraordinary magic that can happen when you invite spirit into your life. Welcome to the second half of Two Halves of a Whole. To get all the magic, make sure you listen to the first half.
I mean, it's amazing to have gotten to meet you that far back
Yeah.
because for me, that was still the beginning of my journey with Jennifer too. I had just met her. The first one I went to, I found my email and I went
You did.
this September. It was my 10th anniversary year for them. I mean, the beautiful thing about this type of retreat is you are you're treating yourself. It's really
Yeah.
special. It's beautiful. It's nourishing. It's this combination of
Or
art and
nerve-wracking,
intuition.
or totally
Or
nerve-wracking and terrible,
well,
which is
and it's a retreat. Like it's
it
like you're going inward and you're really like having to back up and face a ton of shit that's going to come your way that you don't even know what it's going to be. You have no sense of how it's going to go down. And the place we were at, Haw River, in North Carolina, we're at this like I call it like the Boy Scouts, and it is not like fine living. It
yeah,
was stripped down,
but the
which
land
thank
around it is extraordinary, but yeah,
yeah. I mean,
you
in
for sure.
general, like beauty all around, and you have to. It's like becoming a monk or something when you go. You just have to like give up the idea that there's anything that's meant to be holding you other than your body and your experience. But I remember a couple of things about you from that. And I mean, number one, what I remembered most and always remember is that, and I've mentioned this to you in our years passing, which is just that you're just overflowing with creativity and like there's like flowers and fairies popping out of you. When I mean, there's so much energy that comes out of you. To be near you is like it was the first time that I felt a fire hose of energy coming out of one person. And I
I
was
like to call it,
blown
like,
away.
creatively explosive, and our house looks
Yes.
like
I was so like contained. I was so shut off and disconnected from my creativity in general that was part of my drive to the Jennifer
yeah.
retreats was like, oh, I get to play again. I get to be, and then I sat next to you and you're like mastery level play. Like,
No, I'm that incorrect.
that's what it
I will
looked
correct
like.
you because I had meltdown after meltdown after meltdown when we were there.
You
But
did. But
I do remember you. I think it was like day 2 maybe of the retreat, and it was the first retreat I've ever gone on, so it was very new. The work probably itself not new, but intuition and spirit guides, like, that part, I feel like I was remembering, but, like, actively
yeah.
going with 30 women to deal with your shit and work with spirit was very, very new to me. And so I was really nervous, but, like, I went on a trip in 2002 to New Zealand, and went with people that were very different from me. Like, I was sort of hair dryer and fine dining, and they were like, "Let's go trekking across." And I was like, "Okay, like, I'll do it." But I was like, "I'm not gonna go whitewater rafting, and I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna drive." Like, and I ended up
Yeah.
doing all of the things that I said I wasn't gonna do, and it was such an empowering trip for me that I was like, "Oh," it became my new mantra to just, even though I probably didn't even know the word back then, but it really became this like new framework to challenge myself. I was like, if it's uncomfortable, I probably need to go do it. So like
Right. Right.
this is probably going to be uncomfortable, but I need to go do it because I need to reclaim myself. And I was at this, like, I was so exhausted. The event, I think there's some people that can do the floral and event world and not be depleted. I haven't met one yet, but
Mm.
it is a terribly exhausting, stressful job. It broke me. And I very much came to this retreat in this place of feeling a little recovered. I'd started doing more yoga and riding again, and I was, like, reclaiming, but I still just didn't see the path forward. So I was
Mm.
there to work on that and to really get in touch with my inner child. I was like, "This is perfect. I love creating." And she's like, "Bring craft stuff." So, like, I brought, like, a whole suitcase of craft stuff. I was like, "I can craft."
You did.
But it was day 2, and I think you pulled me aside and you were like, "Amy, I know I don't know you very well, but can I share?" And you were so gentle, like, you're so wise, and so you're like, you say you're not connected to your creativity, but you are, and you were just so wise, and you're like, "Can I share an observation?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And you can give me the you can fill in the blanks, but this is how I remember it. And you were like, "You I've been observing you, and you have all of this extraordinary, like, light and creativity and all of this." And you're like, "But you're not utilizing, like, a tenth of it." And it was just like, "You're not standing in your power." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I know." Like, why I'm here. I know. And I was like, "Yep, yep. That observation, it lands, yes, you are 100%
It's
correct."
funny.
And
That's funny.
so I remember we had 2 projects, and the one we were collaging journals, which was so fun, and I made one with a unicorn on it that said "Muse of Fire," and I had a mushroom and a sunset and a hot air balloon, and, like, it was so fun. And then she had us making these, like, tiny little journals with tea bags, and she showed us how we can make covers, and I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." I was all excited, like, anything creative, I'm, like, in it.
Yes.
And I had melt for 3 days. I sat there and we had like 4 hours a day to work on these things in between,
Yes.
like, prompts and her channeling and, like, all of the magic that she brings to these retreats.
Yes. Yes.
So, like, I had plenty of open time, and I, like, had a meltdown after my inner child was like, "This isn't the way I want it to be." And I was, um, I had just bought a horse for the first time in many moons, like a decade probably, and I brought beads and some of my horse's tail, and I was like, "I don't know, I'm gonna try beading with my horse's tail." And when I saw this project, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. I'm gonna, like, just bead." I just wanted to bead, like, a simple heart on the cover. And this was my horse was this one, he ended up I still have him. He's a very difficult horse and has been this, like, greatest guide for me and my spiritual,
Right.
both of my horses, actually. And but his tail kept breaking. I'm like, "This is," and his name's Elvis. I call him Elvish now, but I was like,
That's right.
"Elvis." I was like, "That it keeps breaking," and I was like, "Rah, rah," and so, like, while you say it was, like, contently in my inner child was throwing temper tantrums over and over. So,
Temper tantruming
yeah.
like crazy.
And then I finally went by myself. I was like, "Okay, Amy, just go reset." So I went on a walk, and this is where, like, grounding and earthing and, like, this is where
Yeah.
this is so important. So I was not connected to spirit. I was not in the creative flow. I was thinking, 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 controlling, controlling, controlling. So I was like, "I gotta go take a reset." So I go on a walk around the trails, and I end up by the pond. And I sit down on this bench overlooking this beautiful pond. And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm breathing and it's breezy. You're right. Yeah, it was fall and the light was coming through the leaves. And I was like, and I asked for help. I asked my spirit guides to come around me and I asked for help. And I was like, "How help me get back into myself and into my heart and in my creativity." And I feel this unicorn spirit walk up next to me and he, like, hangs his head over me. I was like, "What?" Like, this is so to have the unicorn card come up or what the dying unicorn, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
loved unicorns when I was a kid. I had
Yeah.
them everywhere and I still.
Same. Same.
And another weird thing, I brought a unicorn book with me called Morgan and Me on the trip, and I put it on the group altar. And my accountant looks at it. She's like, "Did you just put Morgan and Me on the altar?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "That was my favorite book when I was a kid, like, my favorite book." So
And then and you also brought an actual unicorn, ceramic thing too,
that I
right?
made,
Or
yeah,
I
maybe.
I think you did because I recognize it when I
Yeah,
saw it recently at your home, and I had one.
you
I had
did.
2. They were from my aunt who knew I loved unicorns, and she had made them, and they were to hang on the wall as,
Okay.
like, I don't know, towel holders, but
Yeah.
they would break if I did that, but I had 2 of those, the same thing. So when I saw your unicorn stuff, I was also like, "I love
Like,
unicorns." Like, I
that
felt
inner
that.
child. It's
Yes,
just
yes.
and yeah. And like they just have this like magic. So and this
Mm.
compassion. And so this unicorn comes up, this very wise, like loving, and I'm already like I can feel the energy of it and of him. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, what do I do? And he's like, you got to look at the world differently. And I was like, yeah, okay. So how? He was like, look at it upside down. So I loved gymnastics as a kid, and I would like the world was always upside down. I was hanging on something. I wanted to be naughty. I
Wow.
couldn't. That ages me. Now
Yeah.
you know how lame.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about that. And so I hung my legs over the back of the bench, and I hung upside down, and I looked at the pond upside down, and then like it just made me giggle. It like shifted everything for me, and I went, okay. And I continued. I sat there for probably a half hour and I continued on the trail, and I can't remember who I ran into, but we walked together the rest of it, and this grasshopper yeah, this cricket actually with its like pretty like undercolor of the
Yeah.
way like was leading the way, and like I came back
Wow.
to it and I was like, Amy, nobody is putting pressure on you other than you. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you're here to play. Like it-
Yeah. Like relax into that. Yeah.
right. So
It's
sorry, that
interesting because I remember telling you, I think when I spoke to you, it was like we had just come back into the circle maybe on the meditation night. And I had watched you get up and you had all these oils with you too. And you were like, I got to put this oil on and I got to be like, you were constantly
just
in motion. And so what I didn't say back then was I felt like you were with all the stuff and the things and the doing that you were blocking
yeah,
and opening because you were busying yourself with all these outer things. And it was the inner channel
yeah,
that just needed to breathe.
yeah.
That's what I was seeing. And I didn't know how to word things back then whatsoever.
I think it was blocking from receiving, like that is
Yeah. Yeah.
even like I do get these like creative, like I am constantly in this like creation, but that is, and it's a way for me to deal with all of this inner stuff. So like there is a very
Yeah.
use like to transmute all of that is through the
Yes.
creative process
The
is like
alchemy.
real,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But what's
It's a gift.
happening when I'm constantly doing that is that I'm having to do all the work myself, which
Yeah.
you do. And it cuts you off from like really receiving, not only from
Yeah.
spirit, from other people around you, this huge level of support spiritually, emotionally. I mean, to be vulnerable is being our truest self. And that is like the most protected place we can be. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Absolutely.
are right. In that, like, I used my creative process, and that's one of the lessons of From the Earth Creative is really to start dissecting there's something missing, like that I'm doing this
Yeah.
for the wrong reason. And just
Yeah.
that framework of From the Earth Creative, like coming back to the earth and spirit and the heart, I was like, something doesn't feel in alignment here. And
Hmm.
it took me a long time. And then when I started really it took me years before I saw a lot of Reiki clients and even embraced my intuitive gifts. And it still can be scary for me. And it takes this huge amount of trust and vulnerability. But
Yeah.
when you and like talk about that sense of aliveness, like you were saying in your
Yeah.
own business, like to be able to hold
Yeah.
space for other people, to really step into their own soul, heart, the things that matter most to them, it makes you feel alive and it helps them feel
Yes.
alive and like understand
Yeah.
the gift of being embodied. So
Yeah.
um
Absolutely.
that was the start of this long, I hate to use the word crazy. I've tried to replace it with magical.
Right.
This like very magical, transformative, really, really, really hard journey. Like this is the past since we've met have been insanely. I thought I had, dealing with an alcoholic father and a mom who fell apart and all. Like I thought that my dad who died young, he died when he was 59 years old. Like that's pretty hard. But doing that inner work to deal with all of those shadows that I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can create. I can create to not feel my pain.
Right.
All of a
Right.
sudden you don't do
You
that
have to
anymore.
face it. You have to
Yeah,
face it someday. It waits for you.
it
It does.
does.
It's just waiting. And the
Or you
minute
can
that
feel
shield goes
it.
down, yeah, it's there. And then you have to decide, are you going to engage with it or are you going to put up another barrier? And,
Right, and keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over.
yes,
And that's
yes,
the thing is that when you don't do that shadow work, when you don't deal with your own coping mechanisms, and they kept us safe. And I just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, little Amy, for keeping me safe, like, thank you. Like I
yeah,
can actually do this work now as an adult and I can find my own way through safety. But if you don't do it, your unconscious mind becomes the driver of your life. And
yeah,
like that's
yeah,
freedom. That is oppression when your unconscious is the driver and your
yeah,
subconscious is the
yeah.
drivers.
You're really
Uh,
good at bringing this back to the cards. I like that.
Um,
I have one other thing I want to say related to
yeah,
Jennifer that I think, because some of the stuff we're talking about today is, recognizing where we are on our paths and understanding that there was a shift and, some magical experiences. And one of the things that I've always relied on in my life for so long, I mean, back to when I was a kid, are signs in my life to help me, know that I'm going in the right direction or validate for me that something's right or wrong or to just feel good, right? To like to hear the
yeah,
owls and be like, oh, an owl's a sign. So we've talked a little bit about that, but there is something related to Jennifer for me that was also, it came about in this unique way, like through your accountant, right? And this owl burial,
yeah,
like so, and the crystal. I mean, it's such,
yeah,
it sounds like a wow, that's such a coincidence that she would like and she would just know you would want to go. And so my part of that coming into Jennifer's world was like getting hit over the head by spirit because I lived next door to Jennifer for a couple of
I didn't
years.
know that.
I lived next door to her in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'd moved down from Manhattan as a downshift. I was still working in Manhattan. I was going back. I had my second daughter. I ended up taking a job back in Manhattan. I was flying out 3 days a week, coming back home. I was still caught up in the matrix, trying to get out of it, recognizing that like this is going to be really hard with two kids. And how am I going to do this? And I want a slower life pace. And we found it by moving south and all this stuff. And I I had tarot cards hidden away. I would pull them out
Mhm.
once in a while. But when I married, I had kind of like boxed that stuff up because
Yeah,
we were entering this life together that was very, we're both hard workers. He is a global architect. He was like spending a lot of time in the Mid East. I was on two coasts for my job as vice president of marketing. I was like flying all over the place. We had the two kids. We were like, let's slow down a little bit. And so just through all that, I didn't have a lot of time for all this processing I used to do when I was on my own and
yeah,
when I
yeah,
had even been in previous relationships where I just had this openness to do it. So there's this long gap between my college and early years and early relationships and then having this one.
yeah.
And Jennifer, I had seen her on her front lawn and like she would walk out in her t-shirts and her big flowy red hair,
Red
curly
hair.
hair and her long skirts and her husband would be gardening and I would say she doesn't even wear a bra. Like she's such a hippie. This is such a
Yeah.
weird that and her husband's out there mowing the lawn with an electric mower plugged in. And I was like, these people are so weird, like
Yep,
back I was coming from Manhattan. Like I had no
yeah,
I was coming from like business Manhattan, like
yep,
gonna do shit in life. And
yep,
I had totally lost touch with nature. And I didn't know that. I just thought I was who I was and other people were
yeah,
weird. I had so much judgment. I
yeah,
look back on that. It's so funny. So I didn't really know what she did. And I had never gone into her house. And she would see Grace. And she'd be like, "She's so beautiful. She's
Your
so
daughter.
full of light." And I would be like, "Mhm." And she would like see me. I was pregnant with Dia and had like, I gained 65 pounds of Dia. And she's like, "Oh my God, this child's going to be amazing." And I was like, "Great." I just didn't know how to
For the
receive that. And
bronze.
so I could just put a bra. "Do you need a lawnmower? I got one." It's like, it works. It's just really random. So I saw her one day coming back into her driveway because all the driveways meet in the middle of in Charleston style
Mhm.
in this town. They built this neighborhood to be like that, where they all meet in the back of the houses and the kids are
Oh,
all
yeah.
playing back there. She pulls into her garage and we're like holding drinks. We're like, "Oh, you want to come get a drink?" She's like, "I don't know. I just got back from an event. It's whatever. And I'm tired." And she looked out tired. And I don't think she came out, and I was like, "What events?" And she goes, "They're women. It's for women's, like, spirituality." I was like, "Well," thinking church or something.
Uh-huh,
I was like,
uh-huh.
"Okay."
Yeah.
So I ignored it. So here's the part that blew me away. I was out getting my mail in my mailbox. I pull out my mail, and I see an envelope addressed to Jennifer Halls, and her address. And I'm like, "Jennifer Halls, I'm like, she runs, I'm like, that's a business, what is, she runs a business? What is her business?"
Uh-huh.
So I go inside, I look it up, I find her webpage, and I'm like, she's an intuitive healer that does, consult, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Nice." I'm like, "No way." I'm like, "I can't believe this." I'm like, "This is amazing. I love this stuff." And I march right over to her house. It's the middle
From
of the
what
day with the thing in hand. And I knock on her door and I'm like, "I can't believe that you do this." I'm like, "I can't believe I live next door to you. I love this stuff." And she looks at me and she goes, "Hi." Hi. I'm just like
I
losing
see
my
you.
mind. I'm losing my mind. And over the course of the next week, she invites me in. We start talking. We get to know each other. And I'm just like enamored. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Like,
Yeah.
what have I been doing? How did I not know she lived next door? And she tells me it's like the third day or something that she has just signed a lease or a contract on buying a new house. And she's selling this one and she's moving in like a month, 30 days. And I'm like, we've been living next to each other for like 2.5 years.
Oh my
And
God.
I was
Serious.
like shocked. So anyway, she did this couple sessions for me and I started working with her on her business because I was doing marketing consulting at the time. And I started working with her.
Wow.
And then she moved, but she started bringing me to her weekly tune-ins, which were in Charlotte, where she got a bunch of people. It was like 15 people in a circle. She would record them and she channeled. And I was like, "I can't believe I'm in this space with these people and these women." And then I started helping her with her doing those tune-in words on the phone so other people could join and listen in live. And we were doing those in the house she was renting. And then I started going. I went to her first retreat right after that too. I was like, "Yes, I'm going to whatever
Like I'm
retreat
there.
you have. I'm going. I'm there."
Yeah.
And I mean, and from there, the amount of growth I've had in my personal life, my overall wellness, my overall spiritual like leveling. I mean, it is just immense. And I am so grateful to have gotten a piece of mail.
I did.
If I
Yeah.
hadn't gotten that piece of mail, Amy,
She would have moved and you would have never known. Talk about
never.
spirits like breadcrumbs.
It was
I
just,
think
it was like,
breadcrumbs it all
it's like,
along.
she's gonna go here, like,
Yeah.
take this because you're not gonna. And then my whole life has changed since then. And I even met my partner at one of her retreats and changed my whole life for that. So like, there's so much that is so dependent on that one piece of
One.
mail. So I just wanted to bring that into this discussion with us. I know we're going to have many more discussions, but I feel like the power of what's at work for you and for me and for all of us that we have to be willing to open up to really like, we don't have to be open. I mean, it's going to hit you over the head, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it will be a lot easier if maybe you ground down and open your crown and get ready for it, like there are mechanisms to help with this because this stuff is happening all the time
Yep.
and you can tap in.
Yep.
And I think that's hopefully what our stories and conversations help people do.
Reveal. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to say about our retreat together, because I mean, we can get into as we move along, but the reason why I really feel like we are soulmates, one of the big reasons is that I remember there was a big storm in South Carolina before you came up to the retreat and you brought some seashells to put on the altar because we did a water altar and an ancestor altar. I think we worked with water, which
Might
makes
have been
sense.
a water year. Yeah.
Element with the sacrum is water. Oh yeah, and the
Yeah.
water. Yeah, but
Yeah.
creativity and the sacrum, the water element is really
Yeah.
part of flow. So at the end of the retreat, you invited everybody to take a shell. And so I went up and got mine and we bumped into each other and I was like, I got my shell, thank you. And you're like, what did you get? And I showed it to you. And if I had actually had some planning, I would have brought it. It's right behind me. I'm like, yeah, I got this, like an angel wing. And I'd never seen the angel wing shells. Like are they on bivalve or something like that? I don't know. Um,
I don't
so
think this is the same one, but this is one of them.
they're so beautiful. And
And they can
yeah,
usually have second.
yeah. So I said, yeah, I got this like beautiful angel wing. And you pulled out, you're like, yeah, I just went up to the altar and I got this shell. And they were two halves. Like it wasn't one angel wing shell and here's another one. They were two halves of the whole. And I was
Yeah.
like, kidding
Yes.
me? And then we all brought anonymous gifts for each other that represented spirit and creativity, I think. And you had brought your little travel Buddha and I
I
picked
love that travel meter. So
your
good.
gifts out of
Yeah.
the basket. And it was like we were just forever connected after then. And then getting
And
to
that
know
travel Buddha had gone with me everywhere, everywhere for a lot. It was one of those secret like
yeah.
things, like a little protector, a little reminder. Always travel with me. Always came
And
out right on the
it's a laughing Buddha. And
yeah.
he's sitting on my desk. I have a like little business altar for my desk. And so he's sitting next to the business altar the in the angel wing and with one of the spiral like unicorn shells. Like so
Neat.
I
Well, and that the other experience we had together there was standing in a circle. I don't know if Jennifer was introducing the labyrinth that was inside or something, but she was
oh
introducing something.
yeah.
She was
We were around
talking.
the labyrinth.
We were in the room together, standing near each other, and we were kind of in the back.
Yep.
And something happened, and this whole whoosh of energy came up from below, like around, just like flowed right through.
Oh
And
my
I,
gosh,
I
my
looked,
crown chakra just goes, whoa, when we talk about it. Like,
I turned and looked at you because I was like, did you feel like I'm trying to make sense of like,
what just
what
happened?
was that? Because I've never, every time I'm at these events, like new things occur that have never happened. And that level of energy coming through, I was like, what was that? And you're just looking at me like,
You're like, yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, wow, it's like Pegasus or something like coming
Right.
through. And it's like, it was wild. Yeah. So I think we had a lot of angel energy, wing energy.
And it's so
And
interesting. It's like talking about this now, it's so normal for me. Like I remember when I first started getting into this work and one of my, I think it was like the second session with Jennifer, I journeyed with this amazing dragon and we went off into the
I love
ether.
that.
And the sky lit up in all these geometric, like Metatron is an angel of the sacred
Yes.
geometry. And so
I
and
know
I
Metatron.
like getting into these things. And so like
Yes.
the sky is lighting up and on this like ethereal, like pinkish, beautiful, like purpley color. And I'm like, this is amazing. I was up just like in the love. And I felt bliss for the first time in my entire life with her. And I was like, oh, so this is what we're trying to get to. This like
Oh, I have
unconditional
goosebumps.
bliss. And so she had to call me back and she was like, come back. And I remember Jennifer's like, Amy, I've never been to that because she travels with you wherever you go. And
Yes.
I've never been to the dragon realm before. She was like, that was amazing. Like, that was nutty. So I was sitting out at this like little at the
Wow.
local like watering hole and having lunch with my husband. And I was like, yeah, man, I went on this like journey with this dragon. And he's like backing up and like, Amy, you sound freaking crazy. And he didn't actually say that at the time, but
No,
eventually he
but
did.
yes, it sounds like that for people.
Yeah, he's like, "I
Yeah.
can't deal." He's like, "I literally can't deal with this." He's like, "This is too much." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Who else am I supposed to talk to? Because this is crazy for me too." And talking
Yeah.
about it now feels so normal. Like I actually hadn't worked a lot with angels before. Like my grandmother, she loved angels and owls, and but like even with Jennifer, like I had my toes in not at the time, but when I was younger in my early 20s, like I had done like some seasonal rituals with a friend of mine. I had crystal books and I dabbled in like little witchy things,
Yeah.
and but it wasn't a world that I was in at the time that I went to this retreat,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was I mean, I was in the world, like, we had a metaphysical shop that had opened, I think, but now I'm not even quite so sure of the timeline, but so it
Well,
was
I
kind
feel the same as
of
you. I feel the same as you. Like there had been a time where I was more into it, which was right in the like when was that? I got out of high school on I guess like in the mid 90s.
yeah.
I was a little bit into like I was reading tarot cards daily. I have my journal. I'm dying to go back and look at
My God,
them.
let's go. I
I
have
had
journals like that too. Let's go dig them up. We should do that, like, maybe next.
yes, I have
Oh,
like readings, full
yeah,
readings, Celtic
me too.
cross readings.
Yep.
I was really into this stuff and I had found a metaphysical shop
Yeah,
and I loved
yeah,
going and I had my I wore a crystal every day. But it was very like I couldn't talk to people. I had one friend who I could
yeah.
talk to
I had
about
a
it,
couple
who was
friends
my
that
roommate in college. She was just the best. And nobody else really understood me. But where they understood me was this outer presentation of it, which was like I was really good at helping other people process things.
yeah,
And
yeah. Oh,
I could
yeah.
sit down with I could sit down with my best friend who wasn't too into it and I could just she'd be like, "How do you know these things?" And I'm
Yeah,
like, I don't I'm like, "You're just talking. I'm not really I don't know anything, you know?" And she would be like, You have to find a way to do this in life."
yeah,
And I remember we would go to a coffee shop like every Saturday and sit for hours, like sifting through her her life
yeah.
and or
I was
whoever
the
I was with.
same way. I was the go-to, like, the, like, safe house
Yeah.
for people to come when they were breaking up with a boyfriend, and I always used to
Yes.
be like, I don't know how I know these things, and I remember thinking this, like, I don't know how but I know these things, like, I know them.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
Jennifer Falls, like,
Same.
I knew these things, and I knew also that they were a wisdom that was coming from someplace not necessarily within me. Like, they felt very much
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know how I know these things because they feel like they're generated from someplace else.
Yes.
It was a
Yes.
weird inner outer self,
Yeah.
but I just knew things. I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
so here we
It was
are."
the same. And then that there was a period of time then that stuff just went to the background. And then,
Long
you
time.
know, now like to talk about energy and say I had, astral travel experiences and I had
Oh,
a blue pearl experience and like a full, like I still can't have it figured out exactly, but like being a Buddha inside a body I've had like such
yeah.
amazing experiences and I'm I just don't care what people think when I say them anymore. But I do find that I'm like constantly speaking about this stuff now, whereas I never did in the past.
I said my husband has now gotten over that, and he's just like, "Oh, my wife's an amazing healer. You should call her." He talks about me at the bar, like he's a bartender on the side, and so he'll tell clients
Yes.
about me. And I've found that the people you would think would be the least interested are the most interested, and
The
like people are
most.
fascinated. I go to parties all the time, and like I don't think I've ever had somebody say like, "Oh, you're crazy," like and walk away. They're like, "This is fascinating. Tell me more." And I mean,
Right. Right.
some of it also is some of it is partly the package. You and I are like, I mean, I might be a little more outside the box, but like you and I are pretty like average. And that's
Yes.
yeah, we're ordinary mystics, but we're maybe not the
Yes.
we walking down the street, like, we aren't wearing flowy skirts. We just
Approachable.
look
We're
like,
approachable.
yeah, we might just look like, the girl next door. So then, but
Jennifer has always said that. Jennifer's always said that to me. She's like, your whatever's going to come through you is going to be much more accepted because of what you look like. She's like, people look at me and think I'm nuts. And I'm like,
the
yeah,
Reiki
I can see that.
master I work with, yeah, she does tune-ups for me. She said the same, the exact word. She's like, because you
So
look like
funny.
what people, you instantly have this, like, and she didn't mean like, it's just that I look average,
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Same. Same.
it's like
Yep.
you people like immediately trust you because you're in their world, So
Yeah.
it's really it's fascinating.
Yeah. It is.
Well, I think this was like an amazing first chat.
I think so too.
Where else spirit takes us. I feel like I wanted to say one more thing, but maybe that's it for now.
I think this
Let's
is great. I think there's more to come and such fun stories and experiences that I think, again, like they sound so incredible. And for me, they're so fun and it's what makes life magical and
Yeah,
just leading this kind of spirit led life. Like if other people can get anything out of this, for me, it would just be like more opening, more understanding that this is available to them. And if not, hopefully they just have some.
let's take a minute just to return. Let's just close the circle and take a minute just to return with our feet on the floor, and we can close our eyes and coming into our heart center again. Big deep breaths. I get really animated with you. So come back down into our center, into our heart center,
Yeah.
and bring your hands to your heart center and gratitude. And just thank you to all our guides for your guidance, for your love, for your wisdom. And thank you to everybody who is joining us on this journey together. We love you and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you, thank you, thank
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is beautiful.
you. Yay.
So fun to be with you, Amy. Thank you.
It was such a great, like, yeah, it is. It's, that was the last thing that I was going to say is that you're having the language to talk about this. I think finding somebody to mirror, to be the other wing, like it really does. And the spiritual work is hard to find language for because it's such a like sensational. I mean, like it's such a full bodied spirit, mind, all of it. It's hard to find the word.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like right now as I'm trying to find the word. So
No, I think that's exactly right. And I have had even Jennifer told me at some point, like my throat chakra was blocked. And in the work that I'm doing around human design, I've been recognizing that I need to speak. And having an invitation to speak is what allows me to use my voice. And you're providing that to me. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
and
I
I'd love
appreciate it.
the fact that I think when we were talking, like I was kept visualizing the two of cups and just these
Right.
like
Right.
open vessels, right?
Yes.
Like that's
Beautiful. Look at the colors behind me that it like
I
matches with. And
know.
that's like it's like your shirt and the blue
Yep.
behind.
And your oceanic watery vibe behind you was
Wild.
so great.
Yeah, it all connects.
The balance.
It's perfect.
Yes.
All right, friend. I'm gonna press stop recording.
Come take a peek with me. I see another side.
Thanks for joining us. Until our next coffee date, may Spirit lead you into all the magic.
Another side.